to Immediate Movie Reactions. I am here after seeing the movie Violent Night starring David Harbour. And I want to apologize first for my extended absence again. This end of the year is just kind of kicking my ass, and I'm not getting out to see the movies that I want to see. And so I've kind of just been in this run of Christmas movies and things that, we've already seen a billion times. And I'm not, as I said in my last video, I'm not a Christmas celebrant. I am not a Christmas movie fan. So I'm trying to find things that are a little bit different. This movie, Violent Night, is one that I wanted to see last year when it came out and just never quite got there. Things just kept happening. So I figured, after watching National Lampoons and Rudolph, which Rudolph, by the way, I think it's 1965, it's kind of horrific. Like, it's harsh. I remember as a kid being kind of like scared of the abominable snowman and that sort of thing. But there are some themes and some ideas in that cartoon that are they're pretty heavy. So anyway, I'm digressing here. Finally got to see this movie, and I will say that I have not heard my 14-year-old laugh this much in a long time. This is the perfect movie for that age group, especially if they like movies that are a little bit violent. I was a little worried at the beginning that it was kind of just going to be Bad Santa with Billy Bob Thornton. It starts out, David Harbour is in a bar. He's at the end of his rope. He doesn't care anymore because children have lost their Christmas spirit and nobody believes in Santa. But it's more than that. There's a few throwaway lines about how people just want video games and cash and yada yada, and we see him delivering presents, and he's picking up the Christmas list, and they just have cash, and he's throwing away the milk so that he can take the booze, and there's a kind of satisfying scene where he does throw up on someone's head, and that was a good portent of things to come, because the practical effects in this movie, other than a couple scenes where I think the blood is gratuitously bad, like it looks like corn syrup with some red dye in it, I think overall it's pretty effective. So the premise of this movie is sort of Die Hard, and I know that's maybe not an original take. It's Die Hard with an actual Santa Claus. And John McClane, or David Harbour, takes that John McClane role. There's even a line where John Leguizamo, as the lead bad guy, is Mr. Scrooge, says, "Bah humbug, motherfucker," which is good. I'm glad they kind of got that out of the way early. There are a couple references to that and some other movies in this that I think were kind of clever. They were maybe some of the best bits of dialogue in this, even though there were some pretty funny lines. And, basically what happens is there's this really rich family and they're dysfunctional and everybody is just there trying to take the money, and a bunch of bad guys show up, and then later another bunch of bad guys show up for no reason. Why there are no actual, if there's $300 million on the facilities, in this house, why isn't there I guess there is a force, but they get taken out like that because of course this becomes about Santa Claus, who now has to rescue the family. And what I really enjoyed was that it wasn't like he just uses his Christmas magic and kills everybody. It's so ridiculous for me to say that, right? And they kind of go a little bit into the completely made up history, right? Because this posits that he was Nicodemus or something like that, a Viking warrior, and he had this axe called Skull Crusher, because we know that Vikings spoke English, so he would of course call it Skull Crusher, but maybe he did the translation, I don't know. And there's a girl who has a walkie-talkie that her father has given to her that's supposed to go to Santa Claus, and through happenstance they end up their lines get crossed, and they end up being able to talk to each other, and she becomes his person inside as he's kind of going around. And what's awesome is that, like I said, he's magical, but he's not overpowering. He can't use his magic to defeat the bad guys. He's just beating the shit out of them, stabbing people with candy canes, strangling them with tinsel. There's some really satisfying fight scenes and some really satisfying deaths in this movie. It's all completely ridiculous, but there are some things there's actually one scene where there's sort of a Home Alone setup, and I don't want to give anything away if you watch this movie, but it's totally worth it. We actually rewound it and watched it again. So the overall idea of this movie is stupid, right? Like it doesn't make sense. But the way they put it together, it's just tongue in cheek enough. It's just silly enough that it's fun. I thought, for the first 15, 20 minutes, I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm not going to make it through this movie. But by the end of the movie, I was laughing, I was cheering. I really, really liked this movie. I think that this is something, even my wife, who was kind of like, wait a minute, this is not the one we're supposed to be watching. We're supposed to be watching Fred Claus or whatever it was, right? Um, she was enjoying it. Of course, she turned away and closed her eyes at a few scenes because there is some gratuitous violence. There's a whole sequence where there like these other like dozen bad guys show up for no reason on snowmobiles that also explode. Of course, snowmobiles explode. But anyway, they show up, and David Harbour is an old Viking warrior. Like his origin comes from, he was a Viking Nicodemus or something like that, the Red, and he had a weapon called Skull Crusher. So of course he finds a sledgehammer and then just goes apeshit on these bad guys, nameless, generally nameless bad guys. They don't really matter except for how they're about to die. And they, thinking about the idea of this movie, thinking about the premise, don't think too much. Just enjoy the ride. It's a lot of fun. See it, stream it, skip it. Obviously, this movie is now streaming. It's free on Amazon Prime. It's under 2 hours. It's definitely worth it. If you need something else in your rotation, if you need a break from just the standard Christmas cheer, this is kind of it. I think that this is a movie that I will definitely watch again. I'm not going to watch it, not at Christmas time, but it definitely changes that. If we go back to that Die Hard debate, is whether is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not, which I don't think it is, and I have many reasons for that. But anyways, that's not where I'm going with this. I think this is definitely a Christmas movie, and this is a movie that will go into our rotation, especially, my youngest is 14, watched at 14, 16, and my wife, and we all really enjoyed it. It's a good break, and so if you have seen it, please let me know what you think. Again, I don't think this was a fantastic, one of the greatest movies of all time, but it was exactly what it wanted to be, and what more do you want, right? So anyway, thank you very much. We've got some time off coming up here, so there's a bunch of movies out that I need to see. There's going to be more videos coming, I promise, I promise, I promise. I also want to do an end of the year video of the top movies that I've seen this year. There have been some really bad movies this year, some movies that I did not enjoy, other movies that I really, really liked and didn't seem to ever go anywhere. So that's unfortunate. But anyway, keep an eye out for that. Happy Christmas, Merry Holidays, all that stuff. And New Year is coming, 2024. See you after the next movie.